I'm joined by Hall of Famer John Smoltz. Smoltzy, tell me this. What's harder, winning a Cy Young or an Emmy Award?
Oh, man. Winning a Cy Young. It takes a lot longer to happen. You know, it's funny when you mention something like that. I just go back to all those years of being predicted to win and just feeling like a failure. But in 96, fortunately, I was able to at least get that off my back because that was starting to bother me.
Download the Brett Boone Podcast, available on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast.
For 25 years, Stamps.com has made mailing and shipping easy. All you need is a computer and printer. Imagine mailing and shipping right from your desk, anytime. No traffic, no waiting, no hassle. Plus, Stamps.com gives you discounts up to 84%. Sign up for Stamps.com today. Use code PROGRAM for a 4-week trial, plus postage and a digital scale. That's Stamps.com, code PROGRAM.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Glad to be with you. Rainy morning here around the area. Rained a lot last night. It was cool. The fireworks, if you looked off to the north, anywhere here in Wichita, your fireworks show last night was accompanied by a pretty good lightning show with that storm that eventually made its way down here, I think. It does lend itself, Tommy, to the groggy nature of today for whatever reason. Whether you were up too late, whether you just had a little too much fun, maybe for about 4 days in a row, whatever it is, you get that rain, and you're right when you said it earlier. It's like, I do not want to get out of this bed right now.
Yep.
Let's help some people perk up for the day. We'll give you a HTO coffee and iced tea card, get you caffeinated here with us on Sports Daily. We'll do it for our first caller here during this segment, 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline. Jad will get you set up. Locations east and west. Coffee's just available east. The tea is available both places. That'll go to our first caller here. HTO, couple of cards, 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline.
And real quick, guys,
Tommy, it is it's a hard time to catch our breath today on this. We've bounced around a little bit. If you missed anything on the Shohei Ohtani conversation, which Tommy pointed out, some of it was getting a little national run. We didn't know that. That sort of came out of nowhere, right? We weren't planning on that conversation. We were sort of talking about Ohtani as a free agent and what he might command, which I've heard people say things like $70 million a year, which just seems crazy. But, if you missed anything on our potential trade conversation, you can go back and listen. Jad, how are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm kind of groggy, just like you were saying. It's interesting. You brought up the weather earlier. I did want to point out we are actually still under a flood warning.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Early this morning when I got in here at about a little before 3 or a little after or a little before 4 a.m. this morning, we had a severe thunderstorm warning. So I rush into the studio and kind of get things going and start doing all the storm warning stuff and everything super early this morning. Didn't last all that long, but they started up a severe, or not a severe thunderstorm warning, but also a flood warning, and they've extended that to like 5:15 tonight.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it does go on for quite some time, yeah.
I haven't even gotten caught up on everything with the Storm Team 12 because the TV obligations, I usually am relatively aware of what to expect in the weather each day. Because it's part of what we do, but I'm like, it's just it's like hard to catch up in life right now. Like, where are we right now? Oh yeah, you're right. I'm looking at the Storm Team 12 app here, and yeah, we're gonna have rain for still a little while longer today, which I suppose is good when we've been playing with fire the last couple of days. Get things wet, and we'll always take the rain around here, certainly. But yeah, it's been an even longer morning for Jad. So apologies there, Jad, that you've been having to deal with that as we all try
no problem, guys.
zombie our way through a regular week here now. Joey Chestnut retains. Attaboy, Joey Chestnut. Make us all proud. God bless America. We hit on that as well. Tommy, the Royals continue to struggle a bit, but Bobby Witt Jr. is really heating up. And so this is where this gets interesting, because there are some who think he would be a candidate to be traded at this deadline. I'm not one of those, but he is heating up now, and this is going to get interesting because his upside is through the roof still. I have never been ready or willing to panic on him. And here we go, as he's been good the last, month or so. June was really nice, and July, as he hits another home run yesterday, is off to a nice start.
Yeah, I mean, we may not be able to get him at maximum value if the Royals want to trade him before the trade deadline, but at least that value is increasing. It's not, not where it was a month ago or 2 months ago. I think that if the Royals decide that they want to move him, and they decide it's going to be just a massive fire sale and everybody goes, I think that you can get a pretty solid return right now for Bobby Witt Jr. It may not be maximum value, and so I think that may prohibit them from wanting to do that. But if they did make that decision to just completely blow the whole thing up, I think you can get a pretty solid return for him.
Yeah, it's I still don't think it makes sense yet, because I think you could, if he reaches potential and you do end up needing to trade him, you can get it done where he's got just absurd value next year or the year after that even still. And that could really change the trajectory of a franchise. Or he continues to be awesome and you pull a rabbit out of your hat and are better than people expect over the next 2 or 3 years. I just don't think he makes a ton of sense for a lot of reasons. I don't think the timing of it right now helps you that much, because I don't want it. We've talked about max value and all that stuff, but his value in controllable years is going to retain in the trade market for a little while. So I'm looking at CBS Sports as far as trade. It sort of ranks trade candidates for the deadline. And CBS Sports still has Scott Barlow as its ninth top, is a sort of a list ranking where like Max Scherzer is number 1. Scott Barlow is number 9. So they still see some value there in Scott Barlow. I'm trying to look and see if there's any other Royals on the list. There's not, of this top 20 list that we're looking at, but Barlow looks like, if that's any indication, that's still a pretty attractive trade piece. And I think he's the third, if I'm counting him right on that list of a top 20, the third ranked reliever on that list. And some of the other guys are question marks, like Josh Hader, for example. Like, are the Padres really going to sell? So it could be like by osmosis, Scott Barlow could end up as still one of the top guys out there on the market.
You remember when Josh Hader, I know you just brought him up, remember when he got traded to the Padres and it was a disaster? And he had like major upside and was lights out dominant in Milwaukee, and the Padres brought him in and his ERA was like double digits. Like, it was
crazy,
terrible. I don't know why. I just thought, you mentioned him. There's always that potential, especially if you're grabbing a bullpen piece and you're a contender down the stretch, that it might not work out in the short term. That might be a risk for Scott Barlow, who hasn't had a great month or so recently. Again, it goes back to what we've talked about before. Contenders have to, if they're going to bring in a Scott Barlow, you got to think that, they like his stuff more than they like his results over the last month or so with the Royals.
Yeah, I think that he's pretty attractive on the trade market still. And that's relative term, right? Because you're not bringing Scott Barlow in to be a closer. I don't think any team is doing that. But even with his struggles recently, Scott Barlow is a handy reliever with a ton of experience in the back end of games for now 3 years. I think he's got value. And, what the return on that is or how do you maximize that, I don't know. There's plenty of teams, as we've mentioned lots of times, that need relievers, and some that need lots of relievers. I think that the Royals, if they play their cards right, could leverage that a little bit. I think Chapman was clearly a more attractive piece at this point just because he still throws it so hard. But Barlow's handy. Like, I would still have confidence in Barlow if I was a contending team. You know, I don't know if he's to the point where you just like hand him an inning at this point. He might be. But crafty at any point, like a useful piece, I would think Scott Barlow could still be a useful piece for just about every major league bullpen. I do still think he's good enough to be that.
I think so too. I don't think that he's going to go to a contender and be a shutdown dominant closer for that contender, right?
No.
I think that he can be a mid to late innings arm, like maybe a 6th or 7th inning guy, get you a few outs and set up, and hold the door open for the closer to come in and shut it down. That's kind of, I think, the role that Barlow will play, depending on the team that he gets traded to. If you're a contender in either league and needing some bullpen help to get over the hump, I'm not sure you look at Scott Barlow as this is going to be our guy. Like when the Padres traded for Josh Hader, he was supposed to be the guy, the shutdown closer to end the game for the Padres. That's not going to be Scott Barlow's role.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is either. But you never know though. Like, you get into a team like the Rangers. I mean, their bullpen is a joke right now, and I don't know as much about other bullpens as I do. But even if you,
by the way, what happened the other day with the Rangers? They were playing the Astros and had a huge comeback, and then the bullpen let them down, right?
Again, like, it happened 3 times in that series. That happened, by the way, 3 times in that series against the Astros. The bullpen let them down. And it's happened all year. I mean, I if they had any sort of and I thought that before coming into this year as a Rangers fan, I was like, man, they're a couple bullpen pieces away from being really, really good. I didn't think they'd be this good because things have gone really well, and it's despite getting almost nothing out of Jacob deGrom. But I've been concerned about the bullpen forever, and it has been a mega problem all year, and they're still 15 games above 500. I don't know what the number is, but I'd say they'd be at least 6 or 7 games better, probably more if they had any sort of respectable bullpen, but they don't. And it's Bruce Bochy managing that team too, like the bullpen Zen master, right? The guy that always gets it right in the bullpen. They just don't have anybody there. And if you're the Royals, and yeah, I know you already traded Chapman, the Rangers are probably more desperate now than they were when you traded Chapman. I'd go right back to that well if I'm the Royals. Hey, saw things didn't go so well in that 4-game Houston series for you. We got another piece. You want to kick us back another decent, prospect and maybe a guy further down the pipeline? Okay. I mean, the Rangers are going to get desperate here, and they're not the only ones, right? With the third
and by the way,
card, it
right,
makes it a seller's market every year.
And with the Rangers, it's not like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're a bigger fan of following them closely, more closely than I do. It's not like they need a lot of other pieces. It's the bullpen, right? Like
that's it.
They
probably now that DeGrom is out, they probably need another starter in reality, and they'll probably go get one. Like they'll be in the mix for Scherzer. I can almost guarantee it. Maybe they are for Verlander. Maybe they are for both. The Rangers are going to push it all in this year, and they need to. They should, because they've done a nice job through free agency in the last 2 seasons of sort of setting themselves up at the big league level where they're not as desperate to call up guys. Like, they kind of are set, right? In just about everywhere except like nothing in the bullpen, and they do have a slight hole in the rotation because you were sort of counting on DeGrom being that hammer. So they're going to be pretty active here, and I would take advantage of that if I were the Royals, because they're ready to push it all in. I'm pretty convinced. That's why you make an early move for Aroldis Chapman, and so that's who you identify if you're the Royals. You got to go identify those teams. It's a seller's market. It's always going to be a seller's market when you have a third wild card, because more than half the league feels like they're in contention.
Right, and I like that Royals-Rangers connection. Chris Young is running things in
They're
Texas.
In Surprise, Arizona together in the spring.
Of course, Chris Young has a history with the Royals organization. They've already made one trade, to bring Aroldis Chapman to the Rangers. So you feel like you've already got a fairly receptive trade partner. I think it would make sense for them to go back to the Rangers again and say, hey, we have another bullpen piece if you want to try to put something together for him.
I feel like it was in April when I said, hey, Aroldis Chapman's going to be a Ranger. Mark it down in ink. And that is a part of it. Yeah, they do. Chris Young's familiarity. They're in surprise. Like, these two teams work together all spring. They know each other's players. And so it is a natural fit. And maybe that's advantageous for both, because the Royals know their prospects probably better than anybody does because they see them all spring, and the Rangers know what the Royals have because they see them all spring. And so Scott Barlow makes a lot of sense. I thought they'd get traded together. Honestly, I thought that's what was going to happen. And maybe they get traded separately, and if they get traded separately, that's going to be better for the Royals because the Royals can take advantage right now. The Royals, you don't have much, but you have something in a seller's market. We're going to see what Piccolo has, chops-wise, because if it's Piccolo or whoever it is, one of the keys to the Royals getting back, I think there are two things that are absolutely critical. They have to get better at scouting players, which they've not been good at, and they have to become shrewd traders, right? You have to win trades. You have to win deals. I don't know. Again, we have got to, and we are going to work on getting a Royals farm system expert in to know what they got back out of some of the guys last year. I know we were looking at like potential bullpen pieces eventually. That was sort of trajectories there. Like, I do want to see that, but they've got some assets, and this is a big month for them, the biggest month they'll have all year. Like, this is the most interesting the Royals will be for the rest of the year for sure, I think, is right now. And Bobby Witt Jr. has given us, he's given us another reason to watch. I'm so happy for that because he is an appointment TV baseball player. There aren't very many of those. I do think Bobby Witt Jr. is one of those. And just hope that Scott Barlow can catch lightning in a bottle here, have, 3-4 really nice, solid appearances in a row. And if that happens, there will be a team that wants him and maybe even overpays for him. And that's the best thing that could happen to the Royals.
For sure. It's also been a little bit of a breath of fresh air to see Nick Pratto over the last few days. He had a really good weekend. I think he had a couple homers over the weekend series. The Royals didn't win a lot over the weekend, but that was a nice offensive piece for a team that is looking for other production outside of Bobby Witt Jr. So that was good to see as well.
We talk about Barlow and how he struggled a little bit. He's only allowed runs 2 times. He's allowed, a run in 2 of his last 7 appearances. Not a great percentage, but he's been still pretty good, right? He's still, not giving up runners or anything like that. He gives up hits and stuff. I don't think his whip. He's not. That's the thing. Again, he's not going to come in and have zeros across the board innings. But really, the only zero that matters for what he can bring to a team is the runs allowed. Not even earned runs,
right.
Just runs. Period. Like, can he get you out of a jam, and can he get you through an inning when you've got to shut down the other team? I think he can do both of those things. 869-1240 is the number to call. Speaking of the Royals, right? We have the Royals here, of course, on KFH. You'll hear coverage beginning tonight at 6:30 as they take on the Twins. We'll come back, Tommy and I, as we make our way through this Wednesday, the day after Independence Day. Happy to be with you here. We'll be right back.